As a result of this destructive virus, countries, including Bermuda, have faced unprecedented health and economic challenges. As part of its efforts to save lives and safeguard the health of its residents, the Bermuda government has had to require the country to follow specific rules and regulations that have varied depending upon prevailing circumstances. However, we recognize that without the efforts of the Ministry of Health, their stakeholder partners, and frontline workers, and the cooperation of the majority of Bermuda residents, we would not be in the place we are today. And for that, I say thank you to one and all. This pandemic has not only impacted the health and welfare of individuals, but it has also had a significant financial and economic impact. To address the fallout in Bermuda, a great deal of work has taken place in the Ministry of Finance and across government to assist people and businesses. To support persons whose employment has been negatively impacted by the pandemic, the government has continued with the Temporary Unemployment Benefit Program, a program that was started from scratch at the onset of the pandemic in March of 2020. Since March of 2021, 4,938 persons have been paid approximately $5.3 million in benefits under the Unemployment Benefit Program. These funds have provided funding to those in need of financial support due primarily to restrictions that have been imposed on business activities. Persons who are required to quarantine and were unable to work from home have also received benefits. Notwithstanding the work that has been done to date to provide support during this crisis through the Unemployment Benefit Program and otherwise, we recognize that there are people who are still finding it extremely difficult to make ends meet. Therefore, I would like to announce that we will be allowing for another temporary pension withdrawal. This program will permit a maximum withdrawal of up to $6,000 over a 12-month period commencing the 1st of July of 2021, and will be subject to the same criteria that applied in the earlier program. It will once again supplement the pension withdrawal options that are already in place, which allow persons to make withdrawals on the basis of financial hardships. The details of the program will be as follows. Withdrawals only pertain to vested contributions up to $6,000. The program only pertains to defined contribution plans registered under the National Pension Scheme Occupational Pensions Act of 1999. Eligibility cannot be extended to members of defined benefit or annuity plans due to the nature of such plans, and applications can be made from the 1st of July of 2021 to the 30th of June of 2022. Although this initiative is being made available to all who meet the eligibility criteria, we strongly caution that only those who have a critical need for access to emergency funding should take advantage of this withdrawal option. An important consideration in such a decision is that the future consequences of withdrawing money now from your pension fund could be material, as even if it is replaced in the future, it is likely to reduce what is available when one is no longer generating work-related income. Persons should, therefore, carefully consider their options. Factors that should be considered in making such a decision should include the number of years to retirement, current financial situation, and even health factors. The ministry has also taken action to assist the country and its people as we look beyond the pandemic. The finalization of the Economic Recovery Plan was an important part of that work. This plan highlighted 31 key initiatives, and the Ministry of Finance will work with other government departments and the private sector as appropriate in the development and implementation of these initiatives. The work of the ministry will include the provision of appropriate incentives and concessions to facilitate investment in needed projects, assessing various options for achieving the best outcome for Bermuda, and supporting industry in their work to attract additional quality business to Bermuda. To further aid in economic recovery, the government has made infrastructure spending a priority. As mentioned recently in the House of Assembly, the government guaranteed a $30 million Bermuda Land Development Corporation loan with local banking institutions. The funding was for the work being undertaken by the BLDC in relation to the installation of a sewer main, a drinking water main, a reclaimed water main, and a spare main in St. George's. This infrastructure project is important for the town of St. George's and the new St. Regis Hotel. When all is completed, it will remedy the failing sewage infrastructure within the town, increase water production to service the town as well as residents of St. George's and St. David's, and it will introduce a new resource for non-potable water available for flushing, irrigation, and service to the new hotel. The aim of this project is to provide future services to residents and to ensure that first-class infrastructure is available for the hotel, which is seen as a much-needed tourism boost for the town. It would also provide opportunities for employment as contractors execute the works, while also serving as a blueprint for similar projects in other parts of the island. A total of approximately $1.3 million has been spent on stimulus projects to date and includes projects such as the solar project for the government administration, General Post Office, TCD, Fort Langton bus depot buildings, and the construction of a molecular diagnostic lab, structural work on the Coney Island Bridge, and Darrow's Wharf repair work. The Ministry of Public Works is currently partnering with the Department of Workforce Development and will encourage contractors to reach out to DWD if they need to hire any labor for stimulus projects. The government believes the stimulus projects will not only help to stimulate economic and job growth, but will also create and enhance its valuable assets. In order to help invigorate the tourism industry, an industry hit particularly hard by the pandemic, the ministry has worked closely with the Ministry of Tourism and the Bermuda Tourism Authority on enabling Bermuda to home port cruise ship vessels. The Ministry of Finance has provided customs concessions to make home porting an attractive proposition for the cruise lines. It is expected that this program will benefit the City of Hamilton, Dockyard, and St. George's, as well as other parts of the island, as we start to see a steady flow of tourists dining in restaurants and bars, buying gifts, and exploring our beautiful island home. The ministry has also provided porting passenger ships with duty relief on fuel, equipment, furnishing and fixtures, and a wide range of supplies. The Viking Orion, as a result of the collaboration with the government, has therefore chosen Bermuda as one of 3 countries, along with the UK and Iceland, that it will work with on its Welcome Back Restart sailing program. Also on the tourism front, hotels have been given a 6-month payroll tax exemption for both the employer's portion and the employee's portion, which began as of the 1st of April, 2021. Further, certain concessions for bars and restaurants have been extended from the 1st of April, 2021 to the 31st of March of 2022. These relate to payroll tax exemptions for the employer's portion and will help provide needed support to this sector that has also been significantly affected by the pandemic. Along with all of these initiatives, we have continually highlighted our commitment to the continued prudent management of Bermuda's finances. Our economic recovery plans, as well as the protocols that we have established for effective and appropriate fiscal management, have already been evaluated by one of our major rating agencies. They've reaffirmed Bermuda's previous strong sovereign ratings and assessed the outlook to be stable. This is a significant endorsement of Bermuda's fiscal and economic program and its plan for recovery and growth. As the government has demonstrated, we have a clear and defined path out of this pandemic. We believe the future is bright and is full of hope and opportunity for all. With everyone's help and support, the government will bring us out far stronger, than when the pandemic first began. In closing, I want to remind everyone that we each have a role to play in stopping the spread of the coronavirus. Follow public health guidelines, wear a mask, practice good hand hygiene, maintain physical distance, and download the WeHealth Bermuda app. Do the research, talk with your doctor, and make an informed decision about getting the COVID-19 vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Trevor, CNN will go for the first question.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Minister. I'm sure a few people will be quite happy for the news you've just announced. My question, why only $6,000 as a second drawdown? A two-part question. What effects would this have on the economy for such, if there are many people withdrawing?
Well, to answer the second question first, Trevor, last year we introduced a $12,000 withdrawal, and my understanding is a number of persons made the option available to themselves and withdrew approximately $120 million out of their pension plans. I think it's fairly reasonable to assume that most of that money was spent in the local economy. So it does have a stimulative effect, and it does have the opportunity to provide people with cash that they otherwise would not have had. Your first question of why only 6,000, I can tell you that I wrestled with the decision to extend this program for a further period of time, because the underlying reason for pension plans is to save for retirement. And in as much as people are availing themselves, notwithstanding the emergency nature of the withdrawal, they are, if the funds aren't put back and they are not earning what would have been earned had the money not been taken out, disadvantaging themselves in their retirement, potentially having a nest egg that will be probably smaller. And so it was trying to strike a balance between the expressions of urgent need and my understanding of kind of how compound interest works and how funds grow with the benefit of time. And so this was a bit of a kind of trying to find a comfortable middle ground where we could try to balance the need for people to have immediate need access to their cash, while also understanding their need to be able to provide for themselves in their retirement.
My next question, on the flip side of what you just stated, what happens if one passes prior to they getting a pension or while going 65 and they don't have a beneficiary? So that money sits there, and a lot of people are not sure on how they can fill out the right documentations for their loved ones to receive their benefits. So money is just goes back to the, I guess you can say, in the kitty to the pensions commissioner or the office.
Well, my understanding of the process, and I would think about my own experience, when I moved back to Bermuda in 2006 and had to fill out paperwork for my own defined contribution plan at the bank where I worked, I had to list on the form who my beneficiaries were. I listed my wife and at the time our two children, our sons. I then amended that form once we had our third child, our daughter. And so my form has my wife and as the primary beneficiary and our children as secondary beneficiaries. So in the event that both her and I pass at the same time, then the children will be the ones who receive the benefit of what has been saved. I would expect that most people, when they fill out these forms, are advised to select a beneficiary or beneficiaries. And those persons should know that they are able to change those beneficiaries should they choose to designate a different group of people. But I'm unfamiliar with people who have left no one as a beneficiary and where the funds go. But I certainly can check and come back to you.
Sure, thank you. I do understand. I'm not sure if this is correct, but where it has it that this financial unemployment benefits is going to be, I guess it comes to an end at the end of June. Is that correct?
That's my recollection, is that we've always been guided by the numbers and what the experience has been. And I think this next cycle may actually come due towards the beginning of June.
Okay. Another couple of people that asked me, and I'm glad you've called this press conference because I've been asking for you for the last few weeks.
You know where to find me, Trevor.
We've had many callers call and state that they've received 331, 318, 351 instead of the 500 that was, I wouldn't say promised, but that was indicated. Why the inconsistencies with these individuals receiving staggered amounts?
There's no inconsistency, Trevor. It's the benefit that people received this year is the same as they received last year. The benefit last year was the lesser of 60% of their paycheck or $500 max. I'm sorry, the maximum of $500. Sorry, the lesser of $500 or 60% of their paycheck. And so, depending on which benefit they are eligible for, that's the benefit that they will receive. $500 is payable to folks who work in the restaurant and bar industry,
Mhm.
or folks who had to kind of stop working as a result of a mandatory closure of their place of employment, but dictated by the Ministry of Health.
Thank you. My last question is about have you been, many people have lost or come up to, had challenges with the bank for mortgages or debt earned by borrowed, making loans from the bank. Have your office been in discussion with these financial institutions to try to find a happy balance for the bankers and those that owe these debts?
I talk to the banks regularly. I have committed to undertaking to engage the banks around ensuring that they are try to be as accommodating as they can be with respect to customers who have had or having difficulties. What I would suggest for customers who are having challenges is that the first action needs to be to reach out to the bank. I know sometimes there's a tendency for people to kind of want to hunker down and try to solve the problem themselves. The best thing you can actually do for yourself is to let your banker know that you're having challenges. Banks, in my experience, generally want to work with their customers. And in as much as you start a conversation with them, the sooner you have a problem, the more likely that they can be accommodating to any potential relief for you.
Thank you. That's my full question, sir.
Thank you, Trevor. Jonathan, from the Royal Gazette. Thank you.
Afternoon, Minister. Thanks
Good
for
afternoon,
having us.
Jonathan.
I do have quite a few questions. It's just because we haven't seen you in a while. But I imagine you would have mentioned this if you had this news to tell us, but I'll ask anyway. Are you able to tell us if GenCom has been able to come up with the funding for the redevelopment of the Fairmont Southampton?
My understanding is that GenCon continues to do the work to raise capital for the redevelopment of the South Princess. That work is ongoing. I think they're going to be in town in the first or second week of June. I think something's in my diary for us to meet to kind of get a live update.
I see. Thanks. We got a lot of questions on this one. There was that cold moment in Joe Biden's address where Bermuda got mentioned as I think the tax haven term came up. You know, you have these discussions with our friends overseas. I guess what progress can you report on these talks about our tax status and the possibility of Bermuda introducing some form of corporate tax? What can you tell us about that? A lot of people, you know, including myself, heard that mentioned in the speech and had an uh-oh moment from it.
Well, we think the reference was unfortunate as much as it was untrue. And so we continue to do the work around advocacy for Bermuda and talking about what we are. And that work has been ongoing from the day that I stepped into this office until today. And it was ongoing with each of my predecessors. We occupy a very unique spot in this world in terms of the global financial system. We punch much, much higher than our weight class. And that sometimes draws attention. And sometimes there are people who don't understand the Bermuda model. But it's one built around transparency and compliance and cooperation.
Does that include any form of possible corporate tax? Is that something you can tell us about?
I've answered the question that you asked, Jonathan. We're not talking about tax. Our system that we have today, we believe works well for us.
Gotcha. You mentioned home porting. So I guess the Royal Caribbean cancellation, can you speak a bit of the impact that'll have on our economic outlook?
I think the Royal Caribbean's cancellation is unfortunate, but we are comforted that Viking has continued to move forward with home porting. There's actually a ship out in the Sound today. I think Royal Caribbean's probably decision was was partially due to timing and the timing of the U.S. kind of opening back up. And so they had to make a business decision in terms of probably their own circumstances with respect to their ships and their potential clients. It's obviously disappointing because we were looking forward to welcoming them and their passengers.
I think they said they might be back by July or August in any event.
We've had a long-standing relationship, and I'm sure, notwithstanding the hiccup, that we will work our way through this, and we're looking forward to them deciding to return their ships and their passengers to Bermuda.
So you've touched on this. I guess, can you tell us a bit further about we've had this third wave of the coronavirus, so the impact economically the stay-at-home order has had on your budget and just our economic outlook?
Well, the budget year started, I think, a week after we went into the second stay-at-home order. So the budget year, fiscal year for us, started on April the 1st. I am awaiting receipt of the financial results for the first month of the year. You will be reminded that April 15th is usually tax collection day. I think we pushed the date out for the filing date out by 2 weeks to give some sort of accommodation for folks because of this stay-at-home order. And so I can only tell you what I do know at this point, which is that we've spent about $5.3 million as of March on unemployment benefits. Surely the closing down of certain businesses will have had an impact on the economy, and that by extension will have an impact on the government and our revenues. But
revenues, and if you're optimistic that this is going to continue.
I've similarly heard that real estate is doing well as well. Again, the first month's numbers are not yet out yet, so I can't comment on the quantum of that activity and how it's impacted the government's coffers. What I can say is that we have done some work with Minister Firbert out of the Cabinet Office to streamline the process of getting approvals then. And I think that net has led to an acceleration in the timing of the government receiving its share of kind of receipts from real estate transactions.
Thanks. Just on the home run of these questions here, we wanted to check in on retail sales figures. Apparently they were quite significantly lower in February than in previous months. Can you speak to that? Is it the beginning of a trend, or what was the blip in February?
I don't have those numbers in front of me, Jonathan, but what I can say is that coming on the back of a strong end of year last year, it is not a surprise to me that you might see some softness in January, February as a result of people having spent healthily through November, December for the holiday season.
Right. I'm piggybacking on that, I guess. We were saying that the overseas declarations have been quite a lot higher than they were the previous year. Is that cause for concern for you?
I think we're always concerned that people are electing not to spend money here on island. But I think in November, December, we did see very, very strong retail sales domestically. And I'm just hopeful that people will heed the advice that we've given before, that they should, as best they can, shop local.
Can you speak at all to we've had the report table, the minimum wage that's we're looking at doing. Obviously, it's just at the report level now. Any impact potentially you could see it having on employment and inflation if wage increases get passed on to consumers and so on?
I think we're at the early stage of that process, and I think that there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done. I need to absorb the report. I think that before I get ahead of it, I would like to see what the consultation process yields and what the key stakeholders' inputs to the report are before commenting any further.
Right. Just a couple more, sir. And this may be something that I've missed. A couple of weeks ago, you did a rundown of guarantees, and you just mentioned the BLDC guarantee regarding the sewage infrastructure. I thought that you said that there were 3 guarantees. Are you able to tell us what the other 2 are? Did I just miss them?
No, so I'm obliged, according to law, to advise the House as soon as practically possible of the government's entering into additional guarantees. Those other guarantees, I mentioned that there will be 2 more coming. I'm not at liberty at this point to provide any more detail. And once those documents are signed, I will advise the House and the general public accordingly.
All right, thank you. And just the last one that I had for you. Are you able to tell us if government or Quangos has bought the Victoria Hall property?
Well, that would need to come past my desk, and I can tell you that I've signed nothing with respect to the purchase of the Victoria Hall building.
The government doesn't already own it. It seems a no-brainer.
Not to my knowledge.
Yes, yes.
The government doesn't own the building, and
All
I've
right.
been doing this for 31 months now.
So thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Minister,
One
Trevor
last
has
question.
one.
One last question. I've noticed and listened to a lot of my followers talk about prices of food supplies in Bermuda. Grocery stores, chains have had a bumper season. And prices seems to be still going up. Is there any way, as you as a finance minister, that can talk to some of these store owners to lower prices? I mean, one full watermelon, $20, and you get a quart of it for $11, so that's $44 they're making off a watermelon. I honestly think that is ridiculous. Excuse my French, but can you in any way have some type of discussion to bring food prices down?
So listen, I think that is a valid question, and I think it's something that we are certainly concerned about. And what I can undertake to do, because the Department of Consumer Affairs falls under the remit of the Minister, Home Affairs, Minister Raban. We are having a cabinet meeting tomorrow. I can certainly raise the issue. It is not the first time I've heard concerns expressed about pricing in general. And I think that the way to address the issue is probably a whole of government approach, where myself and other ministers engage in a conversation with providers of food around pricing and the burden that's being felt by ordinary Bermudians.
Minister, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Joe. That concludes our press conference. Minister, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
Not much more for today. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. That concludes our press conference. Thank you.